Welcome to another enlightening episode of the City Talk Common Sense Politics with Eyes on Orlando podcast. I'm your host, Amanya Salas, and today we have a truly inspiring guest that has dedicated herself to creating positive change in our community. In this episode titled The Power of the Ballot Box, Making Informed Choices in Orlando's Upcoming Elections. We're joined by Cynthia Harris, a passionate and driven local community advocate and a former candidate who knows the heartbeat of Orlando like few other does. With a heart for her city and a commitment to making a difference, Cynthia has become a beacon of empowerment and positive action. Cynthia Harris is a mother, grandmother, and a true Orlandoian through and through. With a deep-rooted passion for community engagement, she stepped onto the political stage as a candidate many times over, carrying with her the hopes and aspirations of the people she aimed to represent. Her campaign journey wasn't just about securing seats, but about sparking a movement, one that empowers residents to actively shape the destiny of their city. Beyond the campaign trail, Cynthia's advocacy work has left an inevitable mark on Orlando's landscape, from championing education initiatives to advocating for affordable housing and social services. She has tirelessly dedicated herself to causes that directly impact the lives of her fellow residents. Cynthia's voice is one that reflects the concerns and aspirations and dreams of the people she stands alongside. As a community advocate, Cynthia knows that the power of the ballot goes far beyond casting a vote. It's about being informed, engaged, and actively participating in the democratic process. Through her efforts, she seeks to inspire individuals to become informed voters, to understand the significance of their choices, and to believe in their ability to drive change. Join us as we delve into Cynthia Harris's journey, her insights on this Orlando pressing issues, and her strategies for promoting informed voting and election integrity. Through her words and experience, we aim to ignite a spark of empowerment within our listeners, reminding them that every voice matters and every vote counts. Get ready to be inspired by Cynthia Harris and her remarkable journey in this political space. With this episode, The Power of the Ballot Box. Now, we're going to have a few words from the sponsor of our video and our podcast, and then we were going to dive into the conversation with Cynthia Harris. City Talk Podcast, Common Sense Politics, Eyes on Orlando. We are so proud to partner with the Orlando Patriot. Orlando Patriot is an online store, patriotic merchandise, everything you need, flags, t-shirts, hats, magnets, and more. They have wonderful patriotic merchandise to support all of your causes where you can show off your patriotic spirit. So Orlando Patriot, they are currently offering 30% off on all merchandise. And the coupon code is City Talk. We are so proud to partner with businesses in the community, such as the Orlando Patriot. If you want to amplify your business voice on our program, please email us at citytalkpolitics@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And for the Orlando Patriot, you can find them at orlandopatriot.com and get yourself 30% off on your purchase. That you are able to join us today to have a conversation in reference to our city, our county, and the elections that's going on. We currently have an election November 7th. And I want to talk a little bit about that election that's coming, but I'd like for you to introduce yourself to the audience, talk a little bit about who you are, what you've done, and what you're looking to do in the future.
Okay, well, again, I'm Cynthia Harris, and I am currently now running for Supervisor of Elections. I have run before unsuccessfully, but now I know why it was unsuccessful in that race. Upon doing some research, we go back all the way to 2012, which I didn't run until my first time I ran was in 2014. And it was not in my favor, and now I know why. I ran again in 2017, both times for city commissioner. Last year, I ran for Orange County Commissioner for District 6. And in that race, it was more than evident the constant cheating and the lack of integrity in the supervisor's office. What happened as a result of that race, on election night, I was up by 6 votes. When the margins are so close, that in turn requires a recount. The recount process, the alleged recount process, is very flawed and not transparent. They did a machine count. They did not a hand count. We didn't get a hand count at all. We got an observation, and there was no transparency. And when we were trying to find out where votes were coming from or where they lacked thereof, we were not ever given a solid explanation. So, like I said, on election night, I was up by my opponent by 6 votes. At the end, I lost 14 votes for their final results during the recount. One of the processes, we got numbers and I started losing votes. I lost 10 votes, and I asked why I lost those votes. The explanation was that they fed the machine too many times. Well, that's impossible because the machines are locked, and you're feeding the machine. If you've ever voted, you're putting your ballot in the machine, and it goes into a box, and it drops in there, and it's locked. There's no way in the world that you can feed that machine while that box is open. I've worked the polls, so I'm trained to know how the machines work. What was very interesting in the investigation we found was Bill Kyle's son works for the company that makes our machines that we vote on. Clint Curtis, who is a Democrat now, he was a Republican. He created the software to trip votes so that a particular person can automatically win the race. So they're going to automatically win by 51% no matter how you vote. So he has testified before Congress, and he's trying to bring education and awareness and let people know that these machines exist the way they do, and this is why you don't get the candidates that you get at the end of the day. And in my experience of this race last year, the county attorney and the supervisor of elections said, we have the numbers, but we don't like the results. Meaning they were in my favor, but they weren't going to give me that benefit that I had actually beat my opponent. So each time they would make the numbers go down, and at the end of the day, the final results is that I lost 14 votes from election night, which is near about impossible, because if my numbers at one point are this, my numbers should remain. In a recount, they should go up. but never go down. Well, and at the end of the day, the votes that I had, now my opponent has as a result, causing him to win the race. So now I am running for the supervisor's job because we need to bring back transparency and integrity and fair elections in our election process. A lot of people don't go and vote because they don't trust the election process. And this is why they have a valid reason not to trust the election process. You have people who are ballot brokers. They go out and they prey on elderly and disabled people. They vote for them. A lot of these people don't even know how they voted because someone is coming to knock.
That's what's called ballot harvesting, right?
That's correct.
Okay, go on,
And
please.
so they go out and they know in real time, like, vote by mail have already been mailed out for this upcoming election. It's public record to find out when those ballots are mailed and to whom they are mailed to. So what happens is a person would come to your home and say, "Hey, you received your vote by mail. Have you returned it?" Some people may say, "Oh no, I have it. I haven't voted yet." And they'll say, "Well, I think candidate A is the best choice." Okay, if you'd like, I'll go ahead and take that ballot for you and turn it in. Well, unsuspecting to that voter, they hand it over and probably have been handing it over for generations because their family members have done the same thing. It's no different than when people had insurance policies. The insurance man would come to the home and pick up your premium, and you trust and believe that you're covered because you have paid the insurance man your premium so that you feel protected. It's the same thing with voting. However, if you wouldn't give your children away to a stranger, you shouldn't give your vote, your ballot, and your voice to a stranger.
Well, from what I'm understanding with that harvesting is that it's probably not even strangers. It's probably people that you already know, and they place these people in those communities and you know them. Oh, that's just Auntie so and so. Yeah, we can give her our ballot because Auntie so and so is going to take care of us. She knows better than we do.
Right.
And 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 people trust that.
That is correct. And so you have these people who've been picking up ballots for many years. And usually, in my experience of knocking on doors and talking to people, they'll say, "Oh, the man is going to pick up my ballot. He told me to call his number when I got my ballot." Or the lady is going to pick up my ballot. She told me to call when I got it. And so education is still the key. We still have to get out there and say, well, hey, in order for you to make sure that your vote is accurate, you need to put it in the post office yourself. Not put it in your mailbox and wait for the postman to come get it. Because in our community, people come and they take things out your mailbox. And if they take it out your mailbox or take it directly from you, you don't know the chain of custody of whether that ballot made it to the supervisor. You don't know if it had been altered. Now, what they do have is on public viewing, which is the day of the election. You could go early that morning about 8 a.m. and you can view ballots. And the telltale signs of you knowing that these ballots have been picked up is On your envelope where you sign, on the outside, there is a seal. You should sign across the line. So if the envelope is open or compromised, your signature is there. Most signatures are to the left of the seal, the right of the seal, or the signature is upside down, which means someone had it on a clipboard and had you sign it, and your signature is upside down. Before the 2016 election, I believe it was. If you were to get a vote by mail, you had to mail it off and place a stamp on it. Our tax dollars now pay for stamps. And also the supervisor had made a deal with the postal service that if you did not put a stamp on there, that your ballot would still be delivered to the supervisor of election. But now they reject your signatures. They reject them because you haven't updated your signature. Maybe you registered to vote. I registered to vote when I was 17 years old. And I've not missed an election, so I'm considered a super voter. And because I'm a super voter, you should go and update your signature, because we all, through the years, your signature changes. Well, a lot of people don't update their signature, and the supervisor staff, they are not forensic handwriting experts. They reject your ballot because of signature. So a lot of the numbers that we get when they say that we're not voting in the Black community, it's not that we're not voting, it's just that our votes are not counted. They're being rejected because of signature. They're being rejected because someone has compromised your ballot by what they call spoil the ballot. Say you have 3 candidates on there and you vote for 2 of them in that category. That's what they call spoil the ballot, because the machine is going to pick up both votes and reject that vote for the candidate of your choice. Also, you have to be careful if you touch an oval circle and just that tiny little dot, it may not be that visible to the naked eye, but you may have filled in that spot for your candidate, but you touched the oval and placed like a small little dot, it's going to reject that vote.
In the machine?
On the machine,
or is it
yes.
the people?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Spoiled. I don't think I've been abreast about that part of it before. The balloting harvesting, yes, I've known about. But to throw out your ballot for just small things like that, and do they even then there's no time to inform you that, okay, we had to throw this out, or are they letting people know that you can redo this, or that it's just thrown out and that's it, your vote doesn't count?
So here's what happens. By law, the supervisor of elections, when you do a vote by mail, they're supposed to notify you that your ballot was not successfully submitted because of some type of discrepancy. However, they use that law into their favor by saying, by the time they contact you, it's too late.
Wow.
So so if you got your vote by mail, you should immediately go ahead and vote and not wait till the 11th hour.
Right.
Because if they receive your vote by mail on election day or the day before, they're not going to pick up the phone and call you. They're supposed to call you and say, can you come and cure your ballot?
Mhm.
But they're not going to do it.
Wow. So multiple votes can just go down the tubes and people vote not count.
Correct. And that way they say, hey, you had out of 100 people, only 75 people voted. 100 people could have submitted their ballots, but
Wow.
only 75 counted for various
So,
reasons that they tossed them out.
so, I've noticed that a lot of them encourage you to do the vote by mail. What about voting on election day? How does that work when you're there live on election day versus, sending it in, making these mistakes, and your vote being tossed away? What about election day?
Well, like I said, on election day, if you haven't voted by mail, you on election day you should show up at your precinct and vote. If you have a vote by mail ballot, you can turn it in,
Mhm.
but you should turn it in you can't turn it into the precinct unless you surrender it. You can go and vote on the machine on election day if you did not get your vote by mail on time, but you must surrender your ballot. And they have you sign a affidavit saying you're surrendering your ballot to vote on the machine.
Okay. I think I've experienced that when I went to vote. They sent it in, but I went to vote in person.
Hmm.
And I think they had to do something, and then they printed me out another ballot to complete while I was there.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's, shameful. Another thing I've noticed is that it doesn't even take a lot of votes. For example, I was looking at some numbers recently on some elections. For example, the mayoral race, Buddy Dyer's race last cycle when he won his race, there's about 200,000 people registered to vote in the city of Orlando.
Hmm.
And there's about 317,000 residents in total. And last cycle, Buddy Dyer won the mayor's seat with merely 15, actually, it was less than 15,000 votes out of 200,000 people registered. That's just a drop in the bucket.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I can only imagine with what we're talking about, maybe more people were out there voting, but, you know, it just didn't count because of mistakes or people not they're not touching bases with people, letting them know, hey, you need to come in and because you have a mistake on here. But the other opponents, their numbers were very, very small as well. But 15,000 votes won this man the seat.
Right.
And I find that amazing.
Well, like I said, Clint Curtis will tell you when the machines are already programmed for someone to automatically win, it doesn't matter how many people come out and vote, they're only going to accept what's programmed in that machine. The other thing that's interesting is now that we have the ability to early vote, on the west side, where we're predominantly African American, the only place we can early vote is the Supervisor of Elections office.
Yes, I
On the
noticed that.
on the east side, there are locations that libraries and everything else. It's designed that way because they know that most African American people are at a disadvantage when it comes to transportation. They're at a disadvantage when it comes to information. And when you lack the information, and most people are focusing on, there's a presidential race coming up next year. No one's thinking about local races when local races have the most impact on you immediately. If you look at this race that's coming up on November 7th, Buddy Dyer and his team have instrumentally tried to stifle all of his opponents. You don't even really know that there's an election coming up.
I say it all the time. It's the biggest secret there is. Nobody knows that we have an election in about 3 weeks. Nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's designed that way.
Absolutely.
It's designed that way. And I have been working on the campaign right now. And Cynthia, and I tell you, I'm in the streets all the time. I'm on the ground all the time, trying to get this word out, trying to get signs out there. I'll put my signs down today. John Young, I put signs out there today. Tomorrow I drive by, they're gone. But yet the Buddy Dyer signs stay up.
Absolutely.
You know, everybody else's sign, nobody knows, but his signs are strategically placed on businesses.
Yes.
And the rest of the people don't have that advantage. And he's the city. He comes in and picks up everybody's signs,
Yes.
but his is placed nicely on a nice business.
Mm-hmm.
And so people know Buddy Dyer is everywhere, but yet, and nobody else is there. So this, and again, it's designed that way to keep other candidates from running. And people says, oh, it's Buddy Dyer, he's a machine, and nobody can take him down. And it's designed that way.
It is designed that way.
It bothers me.
And that's why we have to continue to educate, and we got to get this man out. He's been there 20 years. And what have we gotten out of the deal?
Nothing.
And we expect to get something different by voting him back in for 4 more years?
4 more years.
I think that's ridiculous. We should want to invoke change. However, we got to get rid of our supervisor of elections so that we can have transparency. We can have integrity back into our elections, and we can have fair elections. It doesn't matter what your party affiliation is. We must be able to cast our vote and have the assurance that our vote is going to count. And right now, there is no trust. So the numbers, especially for our side of town, we lose faith, and we just say, well, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. Why bother? And that's the attitude, and it's very disheartening because, like I said, I need to go back and retract about the public viewing on election day. On election day, you can see those signatures, but you can also see other signifiers on the envelopes. You can see where the envelopes may have been steamed open. So there's a wrinkleness to it. You can see tape. Sometimes it's tiny pieces of tape in the corners. Sometimes it's just flat out tape where they've opened the ballot, made sure it was for their candidate, and if it was not for their candidate, it either went in the trash, or if it made it to the supervisor's office, they spoiled the ballot by adding another candidate on there so that the ballot is rejected.
You mentioned earlier that in the community they're not getting the information. I don't understand that. How are they not getting information? I mean, I know we talked about the election being a big secret and all, but when it comes to other information in reference to things, how are they not getting information?
Well, every community have gatekeepers. So you have these gatekeepers or alleged leaders of our community. They have the information and they're not telling us. So if you're not receiving information by mail, or now people are using
Something happened. I didn't hear you. I lost you there.
since I'm using this phone, a phone call came through,
Yeah.
and it kind of cut it off. I
Okay.
apologize.
Oh,
But
no, it's okay.
and I
Um,
wish I could have used a computer so that we could continue this
yeah,
without
I know.
disturbance. But
Yeah, I know.
technology is not a, I'm learning the technology, I'm learning the lingo, but technology is not my big thing here.
It's okay. It's
So,
okay.
but yeah, so we're not getting the education because we have people that have this information and they withhold it. And by the time you find out about it, it's too late. And it goes the same for these people that are supposed to be elected as our leaders. They have the information, but they do not disseminate the information so that we are informed. By the time they tell us the information, you got the
It's
sheriff
too
giving you
late.
an eviction notice, the bulldozer sitting on the sidewalk ready to tear your house down.
Wow.
And
Y-
there's no accountability and no transparency in the current leaders that we have.
It's funny that you say that. But I had an experience like that not too long ago, where I had an event that we were putting on in Pine Hills, and it was a great event, free event. We had a composer musician coming to give a free concert to the youth,
Right.
and so the gatekeepers,
Mhm.
and we presented it and they loved it, but yet we had this concert in a church where they have two schools, and we did not get, not one student was able to come to this concert. Two schools in a church. The gatekeepers, again, as you say, did not let the people know. We went, did what we could to give them the information. Again, something that would have been so wonderful for the community. And it was like bringing Carnegie Hall to the community. It was
Right.
just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And like you say, these gatekeepers kept people out of it, and it was so shameful. I was embarrassed because this man came all the way from where he came to give this free concert here in the Pine Hills community, and the only people that were there were the people that helped put it on and so on. Nobody from the community was there, and it was really sad to see. But again, I do that taught me the lesson of the gatekeepers.
Yeah. And so what you have to do, and what I've learned to do, is go around them. You don't give your ideals to these people that you're trusting and believing that they will assist you in some type of way to work for the greater good of the community. And so what
Wow.
I do, I don't, when I'm doing something, I don't let them know. For 4.5 years, we had a partnership with Habitat and other agencies prior to the pandemic. We did home rehabilitation in my community. So as a result, we did 67 houses before the world shut down. We never asked the county or the city for any government funding or any type of help. When they found out about it, we were already in full effect. They were mad. They did everything to shut it down. But yet and still, they want to
And
cure the homelessness problem. They want to, but they don't want people who are aging to live their last days with dignity. They don't want people with fixed incomes to not be beholden to them, because what happens when you have these programs, they put liens on your houses for 10.
Yes.
Now the city does 5 years. They're expecting you to die, you lose your property at the end of the day because you don't have a legacy to give to your family, because now you owe money and your family is unable to take care of the debt that incurred to fix your home so that you could live your last days with dignity.
Very sad.
We had our program. No one owes anything. They got their homes repaired, new roofs, hot water heaters, electrical breaker boxes. They were upgraded because a lot of these houses were 60 years old, are 60 years old. So some of them still had the same fixtures in them from when they bought them. Now they can live in dignity. They don't have to worry about someone coming to put a lien on their home, taking their property from them, and they can pass on their legacy. But these gatekeepers is like, anytime you're doing something for the greater good, they're going to do something to dismantle it.
Well, I'd like to bring this point up. I was in a luncheon yesterday with some of the women, some of the Republican women in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And I posed a question because I'd like to understand, we'll talk about Pine Hills, for example. I'd like to understand, why is it that Pine Hills, it's got like 80,000 or so residents, if I'm not mistaken, or more. I'm not sure where those numbers are. So I'd like to understand, why is it that they don't have their own governance? They don't have their own mayor. They don't have their own oh gosh.
My makeshift, it failed. Sorry.
It fell. That's okay. Here, we're gonna rearrange you so you can be centered again. All right. Okay. You let me know when you're okay. Okay, good. So I would like to know, how do we get that process started because we have different towns. Belle Isles has their own, governance, and, different places, Winter Park, Winter Garden, all these, Ocoee, all of them have their own governance. And I'd like to understand why Pine Hills doesn't have their own and what can be done to get it going.
Well, you could do your own annexation. It costs money to do it.
I think you're frozen. Cynthia, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Uh-oh. What happened?
You were frozen for a while there.
Okay. Is that better?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, technology.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can do your own annexation. My understanding, it will cost to do it, but it can be done. And it probably would be beneficial because then you'll have the ability to have your own police. Yes. As well as your own elected officials, people that you want, versus someone else, what somebody else want, unless they get into that program of cheating, which, we're fighting to try to stop that madness. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it can happen.
Yeah. I'm just curious as to why. And some people said that, they talked to the commissioners about it. I'm not sure if the commissioners are able to do that. because Pine Hills, everybody's hands is in Pine Hills. The city's hands, the county's hand. But when you look at it, because it has no real representation in that community, they don't have anything. When I leave the highway and I land on Pine Hills Road, I'm in Pine Hills, I know where I'm at. And I'm just like, I don't understand why the lack of resources here. And I look at a place like College Park that's, right next door. And it's like it's night and day. It's worlds of differences. It's like, how does that work?
Well, the question was posed at the charter review. I think probably are wrapping up the charter review now, but the question was proposed there at the charter review to consider that. However, again, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know it can be done. And it may be just a matter of talking to other communities who have done it, like Ballot and Lockhart and Windermere, to have that.
Yeah.
To be your own governing body. Like I said, I don't really know a whole lot about the details of how it's done, but I know it can be done.
It can be done.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think that's something worth digging into and finding out and seeing how that can be done.
Yes.
Yes. And so moving forward, what do you think is going to be the most important thing for the residents in our community, to be able to get them out to vote? Like, what needs to be done to motivate and get people out there, especially for this election in November, to get people out there?
Well, like you said, we got about 3 weeks of pushing the envelope of education. We have to go into the city, the areas of the city, especially in our community, which is District 5 and 6. And it's got to be a grassroots effort, because right now, there has to be some type of fear this time in the election process, because Buddy Dyer's never spent money on advertisement on radio. And every 2 or 3 days you're getting a mailer, because there has to be something going on with him that he feels like he has to now advertise. Before, he's never advertised. He's never put any type of dollars towards getting the black vote. But
because it's automatic, right?
Right, it's automatic. But he never fought to make sure that we get out to vote. He wants us to vote by mail, which he knows that system is flawed, because that's how he's won. But you don't want us to go vote at the polling locations, because why?
Yeah.
It's not that you can't afford to spend the money. Y'all spend the money on everything else. Why is it that the east side of town have early vote locations, but the west side doesn't? You don't expect us to vote, but you want us to vote in a manner where you can manipulate the vote.
That's an interesting point. And I'm thinking about when they say that here in Florida, we're, not letting people vote, we're standing in the way of people voting. And they tend to say that that's on the other side. But
it's both sides.
Yeah. But I find it interesting that we all want people to vote. I think both sides should. be looking to
Absolutely.
get people out there to vote, because this is everybody is democracy. This democracy is our democracy. It's our democracy. But what's happening here is against the democracy. We're literally shutting people out and not letting them vote. You're not giving them the proper resource and access. And Bill Cowles is the supervisor of elections. I mean, this guy, he's the boss, and he
He's the
has the power
controller.
and the equipment to get this done.
But he belongs to a club of people that have manipulated elections, and he's been doing it for over 40 years.
Wow.
You got to remember, Bill Cowles was elected supervisor of elections in 1996.
What?
Prior to that, he worked for the supervisor. I don't know how many years prior to that, but this man has been there over 40 years.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So when you're
It's
wondering how the election process is tainted, look how long this person who's been a virtual dinosaur has been allowed to manipulate for his friends, whether they're Republican or Democrat.
well, I had an interview with Sam Ings not too long ago, and he mentioned to me that years ago, Buddy Dyer was in some hot water because of the same thing that we're talking about here. And, for whatever reason, he was arrested for just what we're talking about. And then he was let out, and he continued to reign, and he went on to reign for the next 20 years. I mean, for me, I feel like that something just doesn't work right there.
So in 2004, Buddy Dyer was arrested for ballot harvesting. And he, along with Alan App, were named. Alan App was not arrested. Alan App was a judge.
Oh.
And later on, it caught up with Alan, and he's no longer a judge.
Okay.
But there were some other things that the reason why Alan App is no longer a judge. But
Okay.
during that time, Alan App and Buddy Dyer were named in the ballot harvesting.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, Buddy Dyer went and had some legislation done. He had did a pretrial diversion, and his records were sealed. I have a copy of his records before they got sealed. And what it says in there is that he is to stay away from ballot harvesting as a condition of him not being arrested. Well, not arrested, but not being incarcerated, because he was arrested and charged, and he made a deal, and he has continued to do it, but keep his hands clean by having other people do his dirty bidding.
So he continues to get elected year after year. This happens. He leaves, goes back to business as normal, and continues to get elected every single time for over 20 years. And nobody questions that? Like,
Yeah, we
nobody got.
question it. Like I said, there's evidence, and we know he's involved, but what he does is he keeps his hands clean. People pass envelopes with money in it. Cash is not traceable.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
when you're talking about these elections and you're wondering how he wins, well, the city of Orlando's like their own mob. He's the head mobster. And you got Bill Cowles. They program the machines to his advantage. Clint Curtis has testified and has demonstrated, and it was blatantly evident in my race last year that this is how this is going on, and this is why you get the results you get, because we got so many people that are in office that people say, I didn't vote for them. How are they still getting in office? They're getting in office because of this software that's in place to do just what it's supposed to do: win for the incumbent or win for that person. A prime example also, that a lot of people who ran for office last year, you could get on the ballot by petition or you could pay money. Well, it's a cash cow to reject signatures. So a lot of candidates, they got their signatures rejected on their petitions for date format. Even I was accused that dead people were signing my petitions, which they did not. They were alive. They may have died in that year, but they were alive when they signed the petition.
Signed it.
They'll say that the signatures don't match, and that's why I talk about the importance of updating signatures. But they're not forensic handwriting experts, so therefore they have no business saying that a signature doesn't match when they're not the expert. They're not trained in looking at signatures. But most candidates that were on the ballot had to pay the fee to be on the ballot. Very few candidates, while Bill Cowles is in this office, can get on the ballot by petition anymore. But what happened to me, I just filed to run for his job. As a candidate, I could sign my own petition to qualify me to be on the ballot. Bill Cowles rejected my signature. Can't make it up. He signed it, rejecting my one single signature.
So, are you able to do it again?
Yeah, I'll be able to do it again. I tell this story. I have my documentation because it has the supervisor seal. But he rejected the one signature I turned in after I filed. And I signed it in front of them.
Oh, wow.
Because one of the forms that you have to fill out has to be notarized. So I had their staff notarize my documents instead of outside staff. They came out, I gave them my driver's license, even though they know me. I'm a notary myself, so you can either notarize a person's signature and witness it if you know them personally, or if you provide identification. Well, even though they know me, I provided my identification. They filled it out, accepted all of my paperwork to qualify me as a candidate. Once I did that, I said, okay, I'm going to try to get on the ballot by petition. I filled out my petition. I signed it in front of them, and they rejected it.
Well, I don't get that.
Well, that just shows you the intentional malice that is still within that supervisor's office.
You did all the business that you needed to do right there on the premises, and it was rejected.
It was rejected.
Did they say, well, why? The signatures didn't match? What was the problem?
They told me that when I turned in my signature, it looked like I had signed my signature before I qualified as a candidate. And I was like, but I signed it in front of you.
Yeah.
There's no way in the world that I filled out my petition. Well, the petition was already pre-printed. Now that is correct. Mm-hmm. However, I signed my signature on that petition in front of them after they had already notarized my documents, accepted everything to qualify me to be a candidate for supervisor of elections.
And all this is filmed. They've got cameras everywhere. All this is filmed inside the supervisors of elections office. You did all the business that you needed to do right there on the premises, and it was rejected.
It was rejected.
Did they say, well, why? The signatures didn't match? What was the problem?
They told me that when I turned in my signature, it looked like I had signed my signature before I qualified as a candidate. And I was like, but I signed it in front of you.
Yeah.
There's no way in the world that I filled out my petition. Well, the petition was already pre-printed. Now that is correct. Mm-hmm. However, I signed my signature on that petition in front of them after they had already notarized my documents, accepted everything to qualify me to be a candidate for supervisor of elections.
And all this is filmed. They've got cameras everywhere. All this is filmed inside the supervisors of elections office.
Yep.
So now you're going to redo it, or what do you do now?
I'll redo it along with the I'm collecting signatures to get on the ballot. I'll just, when I submit my batch, I'll submit my signature again and see if it gets rejected. But, you know, that's malice, and it was intentional.
Of course. How interesting.
But
now,
I go back to, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of that you would reject my signature? You should have just accepted my signature and let me move on.
So I'm kind of curious. You have another candidate who's running for the supervisors of elections office. I wonder if they're having the same experience.
Of course
they've had the same yeah.
Of course not. Well, first of all, they probably didn't submit any signatures. I don't know if any of the current candidates have submitted any signatures. So that part I don't know. They may they probably raised the money. I know the person that filed first, she's raised enough money to qualify by paying the fee.
Okay.
Now the other candidates that are on there, I don't know if they're going to try to collect signatures or if they're going to just outright pay the fee.
And what's the fee?
The fee is $11,000 some odd dollars.
Wow.
I don't know the exact number, but in order to qualify to be on the ballot by fee, it's over $11,000 that has to be paid.
Wow, you've got to pay them to serve your community.
Yes.
It's kind of backwards.
It's very backwards.
It's very backwards. $11,000. You just want to serve the community, but you've got to pay all of this money to them, and for what? Ballot. For what?
They're collecting money. It's like like I said, they're like the mafia. You got to pay to play.
Pay to play. Wow, Cynthia. Well, you've given us a lot of information. I really appreciate it. Talk to us about your platform, where people can connect and talk to you, help you with what you're doing, signatures and whatever it is that they can help you so you can become the next supervisors of elections, because you've gone through so much with this system, with all of these different races. We need somebody with integrity in that seat. And you've had the experience. And again, it doesn't matter party sides or anything like that. This is about our elections. This is about our vote. This is about our democracy. And I know we're only talking local here, but again, this is beyond just Orlando. This goes all the way up. And so, but talk to us about your platform and how people can help you there.
So my platform is Bridging the Divide. Uh, we must bridge the divide and bring back integrity into our elections. That's my platform. As the supervisor of elections, your job is to make sure that your vote counts. Your job is to make sure that education is there. And one of the things that, as the next supervisor, what I plan to do is launch a vigorous campaign of educating people on voting, why it's important to vote, what you need to be doing after you register to vote. Because a lot of times you have people say, well, we got 10,000 registered voters this month. Well, that's fine. But what do you do after you register to vote? I'm registered to vote. What's my next step? Is to pay attention to elections. Make sure that you know that these elections are coming up. Like I said, this November 7th election is one of the best kept secrets in Orlando. And people need to know that there are elections. It may not be your election, but what affects one affects all of us. You have a mayor that's been there for 20 years that's asking for 4 more years of the same old, same old. You may not live within the confines of the city of Orlando. However, decisions that are made within the city of Orlando affect you too. And you should be able to educate your friends who are in the city limits and say, hey, there's an election coming up. You need to get over there and vote. This man has raised property taxes. This man has allowed homelessness in the Black community to be just out front and vigorous. Homelessness is all over. However, we are the most blighted area, visible blighted area. But he says that he's doing all of these jobs to make a better Orlando, and it's just not the case. Not for us. So I want to make sure that education, I want to be able to have a supervisor's academy so that people can come and see the role of the supervisor, how the supervisor's office functions, what your next steps are to be a citizen of the election process. Because too many people say, oh, I don't get involved in politics. But every day in your life, politics is there in your face, and you're involved in it whether you want to be or not.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
I am a grassroots candidate. We're boots on the ground. I need help with getting the signatures. Because it's a countywide race. If you live in Apopka, Windermere, Tildenville, Oakland, Winter Garden, Belle Isle, Lockhart, Bithlow, anywhere in Orange County, Winter Park, part of Winter Park is Orange County. I need your help getting signatures. I need your help getting the information out, education. We're in the process of setting everything up so that we can receive the donations properly. But you will have a supervisor who has integrity, transparency, and will educate you on the election process.
Wonderful. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's been a really great conversation. Well, we always have good conversation, and you're always educating me and teaching me things that I didn't even know about. But that's one of the reasons I gravitate to you and like to to talk with you so often, even if it's not here on the program, as you know. But you have so much knowledge, and we didn't even tap into most of it because you've got so much in there. I remember the first time I met you, we were at the Supervisors of Elections, actually, and
Yes.
I was there for one of those training classes. I was working with a candidate, and I raised my hand and asked a question. It was about the signs, because it bugged the hell out of me, because these people leave their signs out there and they don't get fined. And so I asked a question about signs, and Bill Cowles and his staff said, "Oh, it's the cities you need to deal with." And then the city said, "No, it's the county you need to deal with." And I'm like, who's responsible? Nobody's responsible. But that's
Right.
how we connected, was that day at the Supervisors of
Yeah,
Elections.
they
And it's funny
always
how
pass the buck, and again, that shows the favoritism in certain candidates.
hmm
Like you said, you work for a candidate, and your candidate signs are missing.
yeah.
And why
But
is that? Why is it that one person can get away with murder and the other person, they're not even thinking about murder, but they get charged with it?
yeah, it's a corrupt system.
Very
And
corrupt, and it's time to clean it up.
it is time to clean it up. These people, they just get whoever it is that they want in. I remember I was at a meeting, the delegates, matter of fact, you were there, and I went back and I watched the whole thing. And the mayor, not Dyer, Demings, he said, we're all the same people here, we just move from one position to another, it's the same crew. They bring in their own people. It doesn't matter. Oh, you were a commissioner today. Tomorrow you'll be the SEO, or tomorrow you'll be the mayor, or whatever it is. They just bring you. It's the same. We're all friends here.
Mm.
We've always been in the trenches together. I thought that was. I said, wow, telling you out loud, this
Yes.
is how things are done. It doesn't matter who you are. If you try to go against them in any kind of way, you're not going to get anywhere, because it's already set up, for who's gonna get the next title, the next job, the next appointment.
Right.
It's corrupt. It's
Yes,
corrupt.
very corrupt, and it's time to clean it up. It's time for change.
It is time for change. I hope that we'll be able to retire Dyer
Yes.
come November 7th. That is the goal, to retire Dyer.
Yes.
And I pray that your election in 24 will go well, and we will get somebody with integrity in the Supervisors of Elections office, because again, if we can't get these things done, people's votes don't matter. People, and it's pointless
Right.
if we
And
don't
and
get it
that's the
fixed.
attitude of people now, is that my vote doesn't matter. Does it? Why should I bother? Because it's always going to be the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you again, Cynthia, for taking the time today and coming on the podcast. Really appreciate you. And I'm going to be praying for you, girl, because I'm going to be praying.
Please do. I accept your prayers, and anybody that wants to help, please give me a call. 407-308-2975 is my number. 407-308-2975. You can call and let me know you want to be a part of the Cynthia Harris campaign.
Okay, Cynthia. You have Facebook, right? They can
Yes,
catch you on there.
they can catch me on Facebook.
Okay.
We're in the process of revamping the election page and the website and everything else. So we're
Okay.
we're a work in progress, and like I said, we're grassroots. So we're not the establishment.
Okay. Yes. Yes. So, we'll have you on again. That way, once things are, we can get the information out there. And I'm going to pray with you right now. Is that okay? Can we just
Sure.
quickly? I'll do that. Father
Okay.
God in heaven, I ask you to bless my sister right now, Cynthia Harris, who's taking on the machine, God. She needs your protection, oh God. Cover her and her team and her family. Cover her in the blood of Christ so she is protected, oh God. So she is covered, oh God. Bless her and her family and her efforts as she take on to do the will of your to do your will for the people, for her community, God. She is a fighter. She is a fighter for the people. She is a fighter for truth and justice, oh God. And I thank you, and I thank you to bless her right now in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. So, I'm going to let you go. Thank you again. And God bless you, Cynthia. And
Thank you, and bless you
I
too.
want you to know, I think you're pretty awesome.
Well,
Everything
thank
that you
you.
do in the community, I think you're great. And God is going to bless you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'll let you go. You
All
can
right.
log off, and I bid you a good day.
All right. You have a good day as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What a conversation with Cynthia Harris. What a conversation. I'm just so blessed that she was able to come on here and bless us with her knowledge. She knows so much, and we didn't even tap into a lot of the things that she's very, very well versed on. But we really wanted to talk about elections today, and what she knows, and what she's doing there. So thank you again for taking the time and joining us on the podcast. Again, please, you can email us at citytalkpodcast@gmail.com. No, it's citytalkpolitics@gmail.com. citytalkpolitics@gmail.com, where you can amplify your voice. Let us know if you'd like to come on the program. If you know somebody who would like to come on and we can have conversations with, we're really trying to collect a lot of the voices in the community so we can get the word out, get the message out. So, and also, if you're a business and you would like for us to amplify your business here on the City Talk podcast, happy to do so. Again, email us citytalkpolitics@gmail.com, where you can send us the information and we'll get it out there. We have sponsorships and so on. We would love to amplify your business here on the podcast. Check us out. We are on Twitter. We have a City Talk podcast Facebook page, and of course our YouTube. So you can listen on wherever you get your podcasts, but you can also watch us on the City Talk podcast YouTube channel and on Rumble. So we are in a lot of places. We want to be out there amplifying the voice of the community and bringing you awesome content like we just did with this amazing conversation with Cynthia Harris. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you in our next episode, or you'll hear us on the next episode, but catch us on our YouTube channel. I bid you a good day. God bless you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.